We got a new order, new emergency order coming out of Judge Breyer's chambers. He's the one presiding over the case that California just brought against Donald Trump to stop and block his takeover of democracy, violation of sovereignty in California by federalizing the state guard, the National Guard for the state of California, without permission or participation or involvement or planning of the governor. It violates a statute, it violates a series of Supreme Court decisions, and it violates the Constitution and the 10th Amendment, for all power not reposited in the federal government is reserved for the states and their people by the 10th. And so the judge just issued an order, and you're on Legal AF, and I'm going to outline what's going to happen next in this supremely fast-moving case. So both sides kind of ran to Judge Breyer. On the plaintiff side, the movement side, the California side, they filed an emergency motion for ex parte temporary restraining order. That's a highfalutin way of saying that the judge, without hearing from the other side, should grant the temporary restraining order because it's so egregious, so clear on the facts, and we satisfy all the elements, and give us this order blocking the federalization of our troops, the redeployment of our National Guard, the attacks on our democracy and separation of powers and all that. Block it. And the judge says, what do you say, Trump? And Trump's side said, we need more time. They asked for one more day. They're going to be filing later this afternoon after 2 o'clock Eastern time, a brief that will oppose the brief that's already been filed by California. That's normal. That's our adversarial process. And the judge says, I'll give you one more chance, California. You get the last word, which is also normal. The movement gets the 2 briefs to file on Thursday morning. And then Thursday afternoon, about 4:30 Eastern time, the Judge Breyer is going to hold a hearing on the temporary restraining order. In the meantime, as per the order, he's not granting a 72-hour stay. And so for 72 hours more, Donald Trump can continue to pour gasoline on the flames, the impassioned flames in California, and manufacture a protest and then fantasize about it in sick fashion in order to try to crack down on a rebellion that's not occurring. That's what we're watching. So the order that came out, and we'll post it up on Substack, is relatively short. It's not granting the stay. But then again, I wasn't thinking he was going to just for 72 hours. It instead sets up a reasonable briefing schedule and a hearing all within 72 hours of the court filing. So the next reporting I'm going to do is when I get my hands on the brief filed by Donald Trump opposing the temporary restraining order, laying out his case for why he's not violating the statute related to the deployment or the federalization or commandeering of the state militia, and then why he's not violating the 10th Amendment and why there shouldn't be an injunction blocking his conduct now. Once we get that, we'll report on that Thursday morning, another brief, and then we all go into court. We're going to try to actually be able to hear what's happening on that hearing because it's going to be done by Zoom. We're going to try to track it down and get more information as it happens. So here's the takeaway. In the meantime, the Trump administration can continue to federalize the National Guard. We've already seen the numbers. It's going to be well over $150 million or $200 million for Donald Trump to suppress a phony rebellion that he created. That's how much it's going to cost. And none of the people around him have any compunction, have any appetite for taking on Donald Trump. They're his ultimate enablers. You know, his Secretary of Defense is a moron, and that's and apologies to all morons out there. You know, he's not competent to run the Department of Defense. He can't answer basic questions. What is the statutory or constitutional authority for the president to federalize the National Guard? I don't know, but you know he has it. That was Hegseth's response. How much is this costing the American people? I don't know. How much of our national security is being undermined because you're deploying Marines and troops away from the true ability to fight and protect America at the border, in forest fires, and for Marines overseas. How do you protect the homeland when you're diverting resources? What's the impact on that allocation? I don't know. Yeah. Well, these are the things you're supposed to know when you go in for oversight. And you're not supposed to sit there like a crash test dummy. But isn't that the entirety of Trump's administration? I mean, does anybody want to see any of these people anymore? At all. So I think what we have in terms of trying to defend the sovereignty of California and by extension, all the states against the incursions of the federal government led by, Donald Trump. I think what we're going to see anyway over the next 72 hours is a judge struggle to try to rein in Donald Trump. And he's going to use every power he can. If I was betting, I would think it's 60-40, maybe a little bit higher, that the state is going to get the injunction, the temporary restraining order. If the judge doesn't grant the temporary restraining order, he may allow for some more fast discovery or briefing and postpone it to a preliminary injunction hearing sometime next week. But he's going to rule this week. So I think it's more likely than not that he will block Trump. Trump will then take an appeal to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit, which leans moderate left, will make their ruling. I'll be able to report better on it once I know who the panel is. Then Donald Trump won't like that result, I don't think. He'll ask for a stay. He likely won't get it from the appellate court. He'll have to take it to the United States Supreme Court, and he comes up through, I think, Justice Kagan. So, or is it Sotomayor? I think, no, it's Kagan. And so he's going to have to come up through Kagan. And she should reject this emergency application and stop taking these emergency applications. But they feel so put upon the Supreme Court that what she'll end up doing, because she's done it like half a dozen times now, is she'll refer it to the full 9. They'll find at least 4 votes to think it's interesting, and they'll set a briefing schedule. That's what's happening. And they're allowing Donald Trump to exploit the emergency docket and the shadow docket system. That's what we're watching. And so I think the next big development is going to be when I come back here and give you the reporting about Judge Breyer's ruling Thursday afternoon. Come here after 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and I will have the result for you. So while you're here, take a minute, hit the subscribe button here on Legal AF. Legal AF, the podcast, of course. I've got a new podcast. It's called The Intersection. It's on the Midas Touch Network, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. And then audio downloads. I could really use the support. We're just getting this off the ground. You can be on the ground floor. So The Intersection, Tuesday nights, and then we post about every day an audio episode related to it up on every place you get your audio podcast from, all your feeds there. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.